played in the Olympics into a list, and I randomized it. So that's how we're going about it order-wise. Whose stock went up, whose stock went down in the Olympics this year. We're starting with Dennis Schroeder. If there's an international competition, Dennis Schroeder is going to improve his stock across the league. Let's not forget, it looked like Schroeder was out of the NBA. When was that? Was that the 2021 Olympics? Or was that the World Cup last year? Or was that during the Euro Cup? Either way, it looked like Schroeder was done in the NBA after a stint with the Celtics and then the Lakers. And then he just balled the fuck out in one of the international competitions. And then he's back in the NBA now. And, of course, he's on a multiple-year deal with the Brooklyn Nets currently. We'll see if he finishes out that contract with the Nets. I'd have to imagine no. But 17 points per game for Schroeder, 7.5 assists per game. That's fifth in the tournament. 45% from the field, 39% from three. Did struggle a little bit in the knockout games, 14 points a game, 36% from the field, 3 turnovers per game. So some farming in some of the group play games, but 26 points and 9 assists against France to win the pool. So, again, anytime Dennis Schroeder happens in an international stage, we're like, whoa, maybe Dennis Schroeder can get back to that sixth man of the year territory. Like, there's just give him on the right team, give him the ball. And in Brooklyn, with their current roster setup, somebody's going to have to be doing stuff. Would it be that surprising if it's January and we're like, wait, Dennis Schroeder's averaging 15 points and 6 assists? Like, what the fuck's going on there? I guess we'll see. I mean, Yabusele, you got to talk about Guerschon Yabusele. And now here's the thing with pronunciation, guys. It's going to be a little bit rough on my end, and I apologize for that. Obviously, he's not an NBA player. He hasn't been an NBA player in years. However, did anybody's stock go up more than this guy's? I saw a tweet today that the Cleveland Cavaliers were a team to watch in the Yabusele sweepstakes. I also saw him tweet out that he's ready for another opportunity. I was kind of wondering, would Yabusele leave? He's at Barcelona, right? Or is he at Madrid? He's at one of the two. Would he leave there to go be a 11th man in the NBA? But the thing is, all of these guys dream about making the NBA, right? So just being in the league at Real Madrid, he's the 6th, 7th player. Just being in the league means you're a step closer. Obviously, you've achieved your goal, but you're a step closer to maintaining that goal. 19.6 points per game in the knockout games on 55% shooting, 66% on twos. Posterized. LeBron James, he tweeted that he's been waiting for an opportunity, and he should get it. An interesting game, a post game, incredibly strong, ferocious down low, can space the floor a little bit, hard-nosed defender. Definitely deserves an NBA chance. Like that's a player who's not only a rotation player, but like is a rotation player for a good team. I don't think he has an NBA out clause. Interesting. He's an extremely lazy player on a game-to-game basis. And he wasn't great in the pool games. But, you know, maybe this was the springboard that he needed to get back to where he wants to be, which is the NBA. Crazy to think he was actually the 16th overall pick. Yeah, and there is he was drafted semi-high in the draft by a team that kind of knows what they're doing in the Celtics. Now, granted, this was a while ago, but what team would you want to see him on to maximize his potential? I mean, the Cavs are kind of interesting. He does make sense. I mean, to bring the Mavs into this, he does make sense as a Maxi Kleber replacement. Like it does actually make sense. So keep an eye on Yabusele. He has a $2.5 million NBA buyout clause. Interesting. Mo Wagner. Just feel like Mo Wagner had a Mo Wagner tournament. Again, like I said, we're talking about every NBA player, so there's going to be some that are just kind of boring. 9.8 points per game on 50% from the floor. He was a plus 7.2 in net rating, which was one of the best of the tournament. Yeah, I mean, do you feel any differently about Mo Wagner now than you did heading into the tournament? Not really. No. Not really. Isaac Bonga. Again, not an NBA player. Was once an NBA player. Hasn't been in the league in 2 years. But I do need to shout him out. Not because of the hair, but because one of the things with Bonga was that he could not shoot at all. Could not shoot at all. But he's 6'8", with an interesting skill set. That's why he got drafted where he did. This idea that he could sort of play make at his size and be a good defender. But he was a 30% three-point shooter in the NBA and ultimately, fizzled out of the league. But he shot 58% from three in this tournament on 4 attempts per game, which was the highest among anybody with 15 or more attempts. So just something to keep in mind here, that it wouldn't surprise me too much if Bonga gets another shot in the league at some point. He looks 35. I don't know what to say to that, but yeah. Shout out to him. 58% from three. It's pretty crazy. I mean, small sample size, but that was the thing. That was the thing that was against him. Jock Landale had an incredible tournament. A really, really good tournament. I mean, he was genuinely has a case that he was Australia's best player in this tournament. 17.5 points per game. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Josh Giddey. 14.5 points per game. 8.8 rebounds per game on 63% shooting. Nearly a 17-point double-double in group play games. And played pretty good defense on Jokic in the quarterfinals. Obviously, they choked on their own dick in that game, for lack of a better word. But he was honestly pretty damn good. And I was just he's on the Rockets, and I was just kind of monitoring how certain fan bases felt about these players. And Rockets fans are pretty excited with how Jock Landale played in this tournament and how he sort of factors in just for their center depth. I mean, he's not going to be their starter. Might not even be their first guy off the bench. But he played really well, man. I did see the Australia women's breakdancer. She's getting a ton of shit. I don't really feel like piling on much. All right, Rudy Gobert. How can his stock not take a massive hit here? I mean, 3 points per game over the whole tournament. 2 points across 21 total minutes in the knockout games, with 5 total rebounds and 0 blocks. Pretty much completely and totally out of the rotation in the last 2 games. And there's this weird sort of, his finger was injured. His finger wasn't injured. No, we just benched him. Bringing Defensive Player of the Year, rim protector, getting played off the court with no 3-second rules just says it all. Yeah, I mean, how can his stock not take a massive hit? And also, it is shocking when the ball is in his hands and he has to do something off it. It is shocking how bad he is. It is really surprising. It's a testament to how incredible he is defensively, how good of a rebounder he is, how good of a screen and roll guy he is, that he has been this valuable in the NBA for so long with this terrible of a bag offensively. I mean, it is really bad, guys. It's actually insane how terrible it is. How can his stock not take a massive hit after that? I mean, damn. 21 total minutes in the knockout games. 2 points. Yeah, I mean, imagine being a Nuggets fan and you're watching the Olympics and you're seeing what Rudy Gobert's doing out there. That fucking turnaround jumper, man. Unbelievable. Devin Booker, his stock to me skyrocketed. He didn't. It's kind of weird to say because this is a guy who's gotten MVP votes in his career. This is a guy who's been a first-team All-NBA guy. This is a guy who has been the best player on a team that went to the NBA Finals. This is a guy who has dropped 70 points in a game. So we know what Devin Booker can do as a scorer. We know what he can do offensively. What Devin Booker did in this tournament was remarkable to me. Just playing a role so incredibly well. I mean, he was so incredible in his role. I think a very good argument that he was the third best player on Team USA. 11.7 points per game, 56% from the field, 56% from three on 23 total attempts. He had a positive plus-minus in every game he played in. I think him and Kevin Durant are the only two on Team USA who can say that. And he played really well defensively. So you got to give D-Book a ton of props. And there was a tweet back last year after the World Cup where Kyle Kuzma said that Team USA has to find stars that are willing to be role players in the Olympics. And Devin Booker quoted that and said, "I'll do it." And he did. Played hard defense. I mean, he was great. And he deserves a ton of props for how well he played in his role. Really, really impressed by him. Bam Adebayo, his a little bit up. I mean, 6 points per game for Bam in this tournament. Didn't do anything crazy, but he was really, really good defensively, especially when he had to defend out on the perimeter. And I'm hopeful that people who are just watching this tournament, who don't watch the Heat very often or don't watch Bam very often, really got to see how fucking good this guy is defensively and how he has a real legitimate argument for being the best defender in basketball. Which, speaking of that, I did get word from NBAU that he is releasing his best defender in basketball bracket this week. You guys know how we like to do those. So that could be something that we do later in the week. I'm excited for that. Do you think the Celtics would have a decent chance to beat Team USA? Yeah, for sure. Ant should go down a little. We'll get to Ant in a second. And another thing that I want to point out here for Bam Adebayo, he did shoot 9 threes in this tournament. So over a 3 per game, and he went 3 of 9. Now, I've mentioned this. I've talked about this before. The first 50 games of last season, Bam Adebayo never shot threes. He was always end of shot clock grenades or whatever the case may be. Very rarely did he shoot a 3. I think it was something like 0.3 3-point attempts per game. Over the last 20 games, of 3.5 a game, he attempted 1.5 threes per game. So that was clearly something that the Heat initiated at the end of the season. Bam Adebayo shooting threes. And he averaged over a 3 game in the Olympics. Just something to watch. A floor spacing Bam Adebayo is a different player. It is a different player. Bamonte, as Dwayne Wade would say, Bamonte. His mother called him Bamonte. I'm going to call him Bamonte. Guys, did you hear? Bamonte. Hey, guys. Hey. Bamonte. Did you guys hear me? Thought Dwayne Wade did a pretty good job, actually. Joel Embiid. Wow. What an interesting one this is, huh? What an interesting one. Got a DNP in this tournament. Had 0 field goals in the gold medal game. And it looked for a second, when it looked like Serbia was actually maybe going to beat Team USA, how could his reputation possibly recover from this? How is it even possible? Dwight Powell, 6 months to the slight delusional club. I scored more than Jayson Tatum in the Olympics. Hey, we'll get to Dwight Powell. However, when everything was on the line, Embiid played his best game of the tournament and what was maybe, honest to God, the biggest game of his life and the biggest moment of his career. 19 points in the semifinals versus Serbia. Played some really good defense on Jokic. And his little burst there in the second half was pretty much the reason USA got back into that game. So it went up a little bit. I don't really know. Also proved he's the only person in the NBA who can guard Jokic. I mean, LeBron guarded Jokic pretty well at the end of that game. But yes, he did a great job on Jokic. Outplayed Jokic in the biggest game of Embiid's life at that point. So I think ultimately it's a stock bump for Embiid. But it was trending in a very, very, very bad direction. Very bad direction. But you got to give props. Embiid did guard him a little bit in the third. But by the end of it, it was LeBron pretty much. Josh Giddey. All right. So I did fall into this trap a year ago. Josh Giddey had a really good World Cup. And I was like, all right, here comes Josh Giddey. This is going to be the year he figures it out. I never really was big on Josh Giddey. But last year, after the World Cup, I thought that it was his time, and it wasn't. He had the worst season of his career and just stuck out like a sore fucking thumb on that Thunders team. But in this tournament, as the guy for Australia, 17.5 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game. Him and Jokic are the only 2 players in the tournament to be top 11 in all 3 of those categories. 50% from the field. Interestingly, I think more interesting than any other stat here. 47% from 3. Now, keep in mind, it is a bit of a shorter 3-point line. And a lot of people think that really helps his shot. 25 points versus Serbia in the quarterfinals. Now, they did again, Australia shit all over themselves and collapsed in that game. And a big reason for that was the fact that Giddey had 7 turnovers. And that was a big-time problem for him. He averaged 5 turnovers in this tournament, had 5 or more turnovers in 3 out of Australia's 4 games. So his stock did go up. The turnovers were a little bit concerning. But if you're a Bulls fan, you got to feel good. You got to feel good about what you saw from Josh Giddey in this tournament. Is Giddey another Cade Cunningham? I think Cade Cunningham is better than Josh Giddey. Cade is very good. You guys will see it next year if you watch the Pistons. Anyone who watches the Pistons. So there's probably about 10 to 15 of you who will see it next year. But trust me, you're going to see it. Anthony Davis, I mean, do you feel any differently about Anthony Davis now than you did at the start of the tournament? Played really, really good defensively. I mean, maybe it's not fair to have Bam rise up a little bit and have AD stay the same, but Bam shooting threes is very interesting to me. AD, 8.3 points per game, 62% from the field, 1.5 blocks per game, 1.2 steals per game. I mean, it's what you expected. It's what you expected out of AD, and AD did AD things. He was really good defensively. The Friar Stin with $4.99. Here's a coffee or whatever, champ. Thanks, champ. You know, my Starbucks coffee, I have so many pumps of this, that. My coffee's usually about $13. So I'll save up, though. I'll save up. Bulls won the Giddey trade. Hey. Santi Aldama. Interesting tournament for him. He looked like the go-to lead guy for España. And he played pretty well, man. I was very interested by what I saw from what I saw from Santi Aldama. 17 points per game, the 11th best across the whole tournament. 9.3 rebounds per game, which is the 4th best. I mean, there's, especially in an international setting, you watch him. It really sticks out. This guy's like 7 feet tall. I mean, he doesn't play like it. You don't think of him as a 7-footer, but he's fucking huge. He was pretty inefficient, though. 41% from the field, only 35% on twos. That's a problem he's had in the NBA as well. 45% from 3, though, and 94% from the free throw line. And he had 27 points for Australia. Against Australia. So, Aldama with a good showing in these Olympic Games. Really impressive stuff. Lu Dort! Do we feel any differently about Lu Dort now? Do you feel any differently now about Lu Dort than you did before the tournament? No. I mean, he played fine, right? It was a very disappointing showing from Team Canada, but he played good defense. He did foul out in 2 of their 4 games, 33% from 3. He did have the best plus-minus on Team Canada across everyone. But he fouled out, again, he fouled out of 2 of 4 games, so just fine. He was fine. Steph Curry. Now, it's hard to believe that a guy like Steph Curry can see his stock go up. After everything he's done in his career. The all-time leading three-point scorer. A multiple-time MVP. A 4-time finals champion. I thought that, like, honestly, I thought guys like Steph and LeBron, like, they would just stay the same because how can you really go up? But Steph, the golden dagger, the final 2 minutes of the gold medal game, it's iconic. Like, it is iconic. And that's, like, all of the amazing stuff he's done in his NBA career, like, those shots are going to be some of the first highlights you see when he retires. Which is insane to think about, that could happen in the Olympics, especially for Team USA when you just kind of expect them to take care of business. But he was plus 86 over the course of the tournament. That was the best. Obviously, Team USA is going to be at the top of all of that, but he was the best. 7 points per game, 35% from the field, 25% from 3 over the first 4 games of the tournament. Then he scored 36 in the semifinals on 12 of 19 from the field, 9 of 14 from three. 36 points was the most points anybody scored in a single game in this tournament, which Luka was there. He would have crushed that. 24 points in the gold medal game, 8 of 13, 8 of 12 from three. And what was it, 4 in the last 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes? The French commentators called him a devil. Yeah, I did see that. That was insane. I mean, just an incredible moment for Steph. 2 incredible moments. Steph going crazy in the first half of that game against Serbia. I don't know where Team USA is at if they don't get that in the first half from him. Now, you could say somebody else would have contributed, and that's probably true. There's just so much talent on Team USA. But they were really struggling early on in that game, and he was just keeping them within reach. It's how bad of a shot it was, but it still made it. That was incredible. Anybody else that's a bad shot, you 100% live with Steph. You 100% live with Steph taking that shot. Giannis, again, kind of similar to Steph. You don't really think, how much can a guy like Giannis really improve his stock in the Olympics? I think his do go up only because Greece is so bad. Like, the surrounding cast for Giannis is horrendous. But Giannis was incredible. 25.8 points per game. That was the most in the tournament. 67% from the field. 73% on twos. Was just unstoppable. In FIBA's little efficiency rating thing that they have, he was second. And he carried Greece to the knockout stage by himself. There was not a lot going on his roster. And he played really well. And just, I think, sort of solidified himself. Like, yeah, Giannis is obviously a top 3 player in the league. It's been a little bit disappointing in the playoffs for the Bucks each of the last 2 years. Not really Giannis' fault because he was hurt in both of those series, but yeah, smashed Luka in the qualifying tournaments as well. That's true. Carlik Jones, hey, former Dallas Maverick. Just want to give a quick little shout out to him. South Sudan was a lot of fun to watch in this tournament. Was really hoping that they would figure out a way to make it into the knockout stages, but 18 points per game, which was 10th, 7.7 assists per game, which is 3rd, and a triple-double versus Team USA in a friendly. I couldn't figure out if this was true or not, but I saw people say that he was the first player to ever put up a triple-double against Team USA. I don't know if that's true or not, but hey, congratulations to Carlik Jones. Once a Mavs legend, always a Mavs legend. 46% from the field as well. Don't know if he'll have another shot at the NBA after this, but hey, kudos to him. Bogdan. I mean, how can Bogdan stock not go up? It was a kind of a slow start to the tournament for him, but he was massive in the knockout stages. 20 points against Team USA in the semifinal, talking shit the entire time. Death staring Carmelo Anthony on the sideline. Love to see it. 16 points on 6 of 12 shooting against Germany in the bronze medal game. 18 points per game over the course of the tournament. That's 8th, 46% from 3 on 6.5 attempts per game. Former Mav. Yeah. That's right. Former Mav. He was really good in this tournament. So kudos to Bogdanović. And obviously, you could tell how much it meant to him, how distraught he was when Serbia couldn't close it out against Team USA in the semifinals. Shout out to Bogey. Anthony Edwards. So, unfortunately, you guys know how much I love Ant. His stock does take a hit here for me. And let me sort of explain why. He wasn't terrible in this tournament at all. 12.8 points per game. He was leading Team USA in scoring for quite a bit of time. 10 points combined over the last 2 games with 3 turnovers, 0 assists in 23 minutes. There's really no reason why, and there is a reason, and I'll get to it, but in theory, we talked about earlier Devin Booker and just how great he was and how he just said, I'll play this role that you guys need me to play and just do incredibly well in that role. There's really no reason why Ant couldn't have done that. But here's the thing, though. I don't think Ant is the quick split-second decision maker that Devin Booker is. I don't think Ant has this word that people have created, the portability, that Devin Booker has. And you look at this team and you look at this roster. There's a lot of talk about Anthony Edwards being top 10, being whatever. And then you watch Steph, you watch KD, you watch LeBron. And it is like, damn, you even watch D-Book. It's like, how close is Anthony Edwards actually to these guys? Like, how close is he? Really, realistically. Is he, like, really that close to these guys? We want to put him in all of these big conversations. And look, I've put him in some big conversations. I obviously think the MJ comparisons are insane and really unfair to him. I feel like you leave this tournament thinking he's further away from the real top tier guys than I felt he was entering the tournament, if that makes sense. But again, he wasn't like terrible, but I was just kind of expecting more. I was just expecting a little bit more from Anthony Edwards in this tournament. Dante Exum. Now, this might be a little bit harsh. I feel like if I weren't a Mavs fan, I would say that it went up. Let me explain why I have him just kind of staying the same. 11 points per game, 4 assists per game. Looked really good at times. However, when games tightened up for Australia, Exum was just kind of a no-show and didn't really make much of an impact, which is kind of what we saw at times with the Mavs. And that's why he could just kind of stays the same for me. Because I saw that and I'm like, oh, well, if that's what Exum's going to do in big, huge moments, he's just not going to be able to be out there. And that's what happened in the playoffs for the Mavericks, unfortunately. Despite how big and good Dante Exum was for most of the league, or most of the season for the Mavs. Exum will be great in the regular season, which is all we need, to be honest. Yeah. Rui Hachimura stays the same for me as well. And he was pretty good in the 2 games he played. 22 points per game. That was second. Again, he only played 2 points. He only played 2 games, sorry. 24 points on 10 of 16 shooting in Japan's near upset of France before fouling out on what was just a horrible personal foul call. Just an absolutely horrible one. He got bullshitted. But then here's the thing. Injured in the last game. Didn't play the last game because of injury. This is the Rui Hachimura experience. Looked really good in the first 2 games. It's fun and exciting, and you see the game that Rui Hachimura has, and it's like, okay, there's something there. Like, that's like a good NBA player right there. Big with his size, who can like shoot and pull up and do things off the dribble, play defense. Oh, injured the last game? Okay. Well, that's Rui Hachimura. FIBA Patty. I don't know if Patty Mills is going to play in the NBA this year. It's sort of similar to Dennis Schroeder. And I guess Patty Mills is the OG of this. Any international competition, Patty Mills is here to boost his stock, baby. It's FIBA Patty. 16.5 points per game, 40% from 3. He had 26 points in the quarterfinals against Serbia, 28 points and 5 assists in a win against Serbia in a friendly, 24 points on 63% shooting against France in a friendly. I mean, we know what FIBA Patty does. I don't know if this performance has some NBA teams out there looking for a vet presence. Like, all right, we'll bring Patty in because he's been shit in the NBA for a long time now. He has not been a good NBA player for quite some time, but I almost feel like he's sort of riding on the back of some of these international performances. But, another pretty solid performance from Patty Mills. Derrick White, I mean, do we leave this tournament feeling any differently about Derrick White than we did entering it? I don't really think so. 3.8 points per game, 7 minutes in the semifinals, was a DNP in the gold medal game. Derrick White, a late addition to the Team USA roster. You got to love him. He's got a face only a mother could love. Micic. Despite my frustrations with him at times in that USA game, his stock did go up. He played well in this tournament. 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting, 2 of 7 from 3 in that game against Team United States of America. But in the other 5 games of the tournament, 14.5 points per game, 50% from the field, 36% from deep, 5 assists per game, only 1 turnover per game. Had 19 points against Germany in the bronze medal game. He looked good. He looked like he could be an NBA player. He stunk. He stunk in the USA game for sure. Josh Green. How can you not be almost saddened by this? I mean, what's there even to say? Now, I was trying to do some research yesterday. Is there a injury that we don't know about here? Because Josh Green did not score a single point in the Olympics and ended up losing his spot in the rotation entirely to Matthew Dellavedova in 2024. Is it the elbow? An injured psyche? An injury to his confidence? Well, Delly still plays for the national team, yes. And he got into the rotation over Josh Green, who did not score a single point in this tournament. I mean, hard not to feel pretty good if you're the Dallas Mavericks after that. Feels like you kind of sold high for the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, you didn't give up anything to get them, but it's still just kind of like we thought you were like kind of good. Nikola Jović, who I have said is a sneaky. Most improved player of the year candidate to me. And he just was not very good in this tournament. 4.2 points per game, 43% shooting, 30% from three, 5 total minutes in the knockout stage. Now, there's some rumors that he was injured and played sick and was a little sick. So, there is that. But the thing that concerns me with him is defensively, he just doesn't look that good. And that's the big concern with him, that he's just not good defensively at all. He was injured, not rumors. I was saying more rumors about the sick stuff. Hey! Yuki Kawamura, 5'8", 5'7". Looks like he could honestly be shorter than that. He does have an Exhibit 10 contract with the Memphis Grizzlies, so he's technically sniffing around the NBA. 20 points per game, which was 4th in the whole tournament. 7.7 assists per game, which is 3rd. 29 points against France, 21 and 10 against Brazil. 40% from 3 on nearly 11 attempts per game. Do you know how good you have to be at basketball to be that small? And play that well? Like, the amount of skill you have to have is actually insane. Because if a 6'2" guy is even like 70% as skilled as you, they're better than you. If a 6'5" guy is even like 50% as skilled as you, they're better than you. Absolutely insane. Got to give a huge shout out to him. 5 inches taller than Muggsy Bogues. That is crazy. I'm telling you right now, he's listed as 5'8". DQ, you might want to just get out of here for this one, man. Jamal Murray, I mean, takes a massive hit here. 6 points per game, 29% from the field, 14% from 3. Had a negative plus minus in 3 of the 4 games that Canada played. Had 7 points on 3 of 13 shooting against France when they got upset in the knockout stages. Man, he was a fiasco out there. And what's more concerning is just how he looks physically. You know, again, I've talked about this with Jamal Murray in this tournament. He's got a 4-game sample size. A rough shooting stretch there. You know, if that shit happens, whatever, you can kind of look past it. It's just, he physically doesn't look right. He physically does not look right. So I'm assuming that calf is still bothering him. He just doesn't look as quick. He looks indecisive. I don't know if he's kind of like, he's just not used to not having this quickness that he's used to. And he's not like an uber athletic player, but he does use that quickness and shiftiness to his advantage. And man, it was rough this year for him in this tournament. Rough. It's a little spooky. A little tiny bit spooky if you are a Denver Nuggets fan after seeing that. Now, hopefully 2 months off can sort of get him right, but Man, a little spooky. Shai had a really good tournament, but I feel pretty much the same about Shai as I did entering the tournament. 21 points per game, which is third. We knew he was a great scorer. 2 of 9 from 3 over his last 3 games. You know, the 3-point shot with Shai kind of comes and goes. 27 points in the quarterfinals versus France. He was putting the team on his back, very similar to what we saw in that OKC Mavericks series, where Shai at times was pretty much the only offense they had. Shai didn't give me as much as I expected. Yeah, that's why he stays the same. It wasn't like a really big carry job like we saw Giannis, which is why I put Giannis as up and not Shai. There's also, I'm waiting for a bigger playmaking leap for Shai. Because all these talks, I say it all the time, Shai's, to me, there's a level offensively that Shai's not at with certain other guys like Luka, like Jokic. I would even say like a Giannis. And the reason why I say that is because there's playmaking attributes these guys have that I don't think Shai does. And even when he's in takeover mode, in that game against France, he went into takeover mode for 6 or 7 minutes, and it felt like nobody else touched the basketball. And I know that I'll say that, and people say, well, what about, Luka's a ball hog. Luka's not a ball hog to that magnitude. Luka's looking to pass. Okay? He does need a 3-point shooting volume leap. He does need to shoot more threes. Because he is good at it. He was like 50% on step-back threes in the playoffs. Like, he's a good shooter. He does need to shoot more, though. But, I mean, again, Shai had a good tournament, though. Shai had a good tournament. Just, not good enough to change my opinion of him, like in any real way, shape, or form. I still think he's a top 5 player in the world. So, LeBron. How can LeBron's stock possibly go up? How about being 39 years old and being the guy on Team USA? MVP of the tournament, 14 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 8.5 assists per game, which was second. It was really fun to watch LeBron sort of be the Magic Johnson of this team, the quarterback, operating things, playmaking for others. He was 4th in FIBA's efficiency thing, 77% on 2-pointers. When he still gets downhill, he's unstoppable. Puts his shoulder into you. Nothing you can do about it whatsoever. 15 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 10 assists per game in the last 2 games for Team USA, plus 31 over those 2 games. In 2 close games that came down to the wire, he was a plus 31. The GOAT, man. He's the GOAT. Hasn't closed out to finish since the bubble, but it doesn't matter. And the defense on Jokic was impressive. I know Jokic was in foul trouble, whatever. It was good. 27 of 30 at the rim. Jesus, man. I'm telling you. I'm telling you right now, there's a world where he is playing in the next Olympics. I really would not put it past him. It sounds insane. That tweet is the fuckery won't continue much longer. When was that tweet? Like 2016? LeBron can't be doing this much longer. This fuckery can't go on much longer. MVP of the tournament. And I thought it was well-deserved, too. People said it should have been Steph. Steph was incredible the last 2 games, but, I mean, LeBron really he was the quarterback of this team for the entire tournament. So it had to be LeBron. Franz. Franz's stock goes up for me. You guys know I'm a fanatic. Okay, there's still some stuff with Franz that's a little bit concerning. I get all of that. Okay? 28 points on 9 of 24 shooting in the semifinal and bronze medal game combined. So we remember game 7 left a weird taste in our mouth. 18.5 points per game in this tournament, which was 7th. 20% on threes. That's still quite the concern here for Franz. But he did shoot nearly 70% on 2s in the first 4 games of the tournament. And was great defensively all tournament long. He was second team all tournament. He was really good, man. He was really good. The 3-point shot has to get there. It has to get there for him to really take like a legit all-star leap. KD, I originally had KD's stock staying the same because, I mean, realistically, Do you feel any differently about KD now than you did going into this tournament? The reason why I had LeBron's go up is because it is like, holy fuck, LeBron's 39 years old, and he's still probably a top 6 or 7 player in the world. Same thing with Steph, where it's like the Warriors are kind of disappointing, and they're probably not going to be very good this year, but he's still capable of looking like the best player on the planet at any given time. KD just kind of maintained it. The reason why his stock is going up is he is now the most decorated men's basketball player that there's ever been. So, in the Olympic Games. So for that, I will raise his stock. Became the leading scorer in Team USA history. I believe has more golds now than anybody else. And he did shoot 51% from 3. And that first game against Serbia, 23 points on 8 of 9 shooting. I mean, come on. That was crazy. Jokic. His stock does go up. He was incredible in this tournament. Probably the best player in this tournament. 18 points per game, which was 6th. 10.7 rebounds per game, 1st. 8.1 assists per game, 1st. Only player top 6 in all 3 categories. Only player top 10 in all in 3 categories. Of course, I said earlier, him and Giddey were the only 2 in the top 11 because Giddey, I think, was 11th in scoring. 19, 12, and 11 in the bronze medal game. 31 efficiency, the FIBA efficiency stat, which was the highest by a huge margin in this tournament. Serbia dominated the minutes when he was on the court. The only game with a plus-minus was the semifinals against Team USA, where I don't think he played a great game, especially for Jokic's standards. And I do think if Jokic played a little bit better, Serbia might have won that game. But he was incredible in this tournament. His jumper is broken, but I think it can be fixed. I think he's just in a weird sort of shooting slump. But shout out to Jokic, man. It's just like anytime, because it is. Jokic has been in these conversations for so long that you do kind of get fatigued with it. You almost want to be like, oh, maybe Jokic is like the 3rd best player in the league now, and maybe this guy's ahead of him. Maybe this guy's ahead of him. But then you watch him play, and it's just like, no, he's still incredible. Jrue's stock is going to go up a little bit for me. Don't feel like too differently about Jrue. Don't feel too differently about Jrue leaving the tournament as I did entering it. We know who Jrue Holiday is. 50% from 3. It is interesting. Jrue Holiday, you look at the roster, he does sort of stick out. Not that he's not a great player, he is, but that, the NBA is just full with all NBA guys, all-stars, and Drew's made an all-star game, but you know what I'm saying. And Jrue you watch him play, and he does not look like he's out of place. Like, hardly ever does it look like, what's Jrue doing out there? Like, it's just like, oh, Drew's really good. And he joined Scottie Pippen as the only players to ever win a gold medal in a finals in the same year twice. So there you go. Jrue did it this year, obviously, with the Celtics. And then in 2021 with the Bucks. So there's a little interesting little tidbit there. But if you don't watch basketball very often, you probably entered this tournament going, who the fuck's Jrue Holiday? Like, I've heard of him, but he's really on this team. And you left it thinking, oh, yeah, Jrue Holiday's a really good basketball player. Some people say that this has solidified him as a Hall of Famer. What do you guys feel about that? I don't know how I feel about Hall of Fame. I don't really feel too strongly about it one way or the other, though. All right, well, Jayson Tatum. I mean, how has his stock not... have we ever seen something like this? Have we ever seen something like this? A player who was widely considered a top 5 or around top 5 player in the league. A player who just won the NBA Finals. Then a few months later wins the gold medal for the Olympics. Have we seen a player's stock take a hit like this? And a lot of it's just online shit posting. But as a player, you feel a little differently about him. Obviously, getting DNPs and pretty much being out of the rotation by the end of the tournament is a little bit surprising. Did get some minutes in the gold medal game, and just looked fine in them. Didn't look great. I mean, it's about It's a little surprising how this all went down because a lot of this is political. Okay, you have to understand a lot of this stuff is political. Tatum is, you'd have to imagine, viewed as one of the faces of Team USA moving forward because you would like to think Steph, KD, and LeBron will more than likely not be there in 2028, 4 years from now. You just look at the team and who's on it. Tatum kind of slots into being the guy next time. Tatum, Anthony Edwards, and he's getting DNPs. His mom is upset on Twitter. He's posting subliminal Instagram stories. Vince Staples saying we will avenge Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum sharing that on his Instagram story. He's got all NBAs, first team all NBAs. He's got a ring. He's got gold medals. He's one of the most decorated players we've seen as a 26-year-old. And it's like, how do you feel worse about him than you did maybe a year ago? It's really bizarre. Like he was first team all NBA this year. He won the NBA Finals. He won a gold medal. And I feel worse about him than I did last year. But you want to know why? According to Jason Timpf, he was 0 of 17 on jumpers. In friendlies and in the Olympics. 0 of 17. He didn't make a three. His jump shot has looked fucked for a long time now. It's just really weird. I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Drew Hanlon didn't even tweet one time about it. Is there something there? Does Drew Hanlon usually tweet about Tatum? They train together? If he got drafted to Charlotte, he'd be fighting for his second contract somewhere. All right. See, I don't agree with that. Tatum is still a really good basketball player. But it does feel like I had him as top 5 at my end of season top 100 rankings because I did like what he did in the playoffs. I liked his playmaking. I liked his defense. His shot wasn't there, but I thought he contributed in a lot of different ways. But man, I will have to reconsider that. It's very strange. A few left. Bilal Coulibaly went up a little bit. I mean, didn't really do much. Didn't get like a ton of minutes or anything like that, but did look very good defensively when he was out there, which is Bilal's sort of calling card. DMP in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, but did get some gold medal game run. Offensively, still looks a little bit rough, but played pretty well defensively. So give him a little bit of a shout out. RJ Barrett, Star J, huge boost. He was great in this tournament. And if you just go back to how he's looked since getting traded to the Raptors, he's been pretty fucking good. 19.8 points per game in this tournament. That was the 5th most, 58% from the field, 43% from 3 on 4 attempts per game. Him and Shai were clearly the 2 best guys on Canada in this tournament, and he was really, really good. So shout out to RJ Barrett. Again, has just been really good since he got traded to the Raptors. So kudos to him. Dillon Brooks' stock does go down for me a little bit, which is kind of a shame because he did play pretty well at the start of this tournament, but played good defense, was really good in group play, 14 points per game, 60% from 3 in group play. However, why does his stock go down? Well, what's been the underlying question with Dillon Brooks' career so far? That you probably can't win a big game with him because, yes, he inevitably succumbs to ass play. Do with that what you will. 2 points on 1 of 9 against France in the quarterfinals. I mean, was a disaster. Was so bad in that game. So bad. That it's just like, oh, well, that's the Dillon Brooks that you expect. He's going to lose a game for you damn near. Andrew Nembhard stayed about the same for me. He had some really impressive moments, but 0 points on 0 shots against France. Not necessarily his fault, but watching that game, it did look like he was maybe a little scared. But that's about what I expected from Nembhard. Played good defensively. Had 19 points on 8 of 10 shooting against Spain. Yeah. I feel like I just feel about the same with Nembhard, which is a shame. I kind of was hoping for a bigger boost, but I mean, Tyrese Haliburton. What we knew when we saw the roster, Tyrese Haliburton being the guy who didn't play was just kind of obvious. So nothing really to see there. They might be wondering, how does Tatum go down for not playing and not Haliburton? Tatum was supposed to be the guy. Like, this was damn near supposed to be like Tatum's team. His posting does go up. He was a great poster. He was a great sport during all of this. Nick Batum. Stock goes up. He's still getting it done at his old age. Signed a contract with the Clippers this offseason to go back. 35 years old. Still looks really good defensively. His stock goes up because, well, he played really well for the Sixers last year, but, you know, he threatened retirement. So it was like, could Nicholas Batum be done? And then he plays. You're like, no, Nicholas Batum, as long as he's healthy and playing, still looks to be a very solid rotation player. Dwight Powell. Steroids have gone up. Look how fucking broad his shoulders are. Keep that up, Dwight. Keep that up. My God. I'm saying Dwight Powell stays the same. He did play pretty well. He was 9 of 10 in this tournament, 90%. It's the best field goal percentage ever in the Olympics. That's what you can expect from Dwight Powell. Greatness. 6.5 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game. The reason why he stays the same is Canada saw what happens when Dwight Powell is your starting center. And that's, you have a big size disadvantage and you struggle tremendously on the glass. Stocks up. He looked a little washed sometimes this year. No, he stays the same for me because this is who Dwight Powell I know is. He's a great rim runner, great finisher around the rim when he gets the ball around the rim, plays really, really hard. But if he's your go-to guy, your starting center, then you're in some trouble. That's who I know Dwight Powell to be. I'm a Dwight Powell defender. Don't forget that. I've taken a lot of shit defending him over the years. Sadly, once I was in a burning car and a man ripped my door open and it was none other than Dwight Powell. And before my car blew up, he got under there and fixed it. Wow. Incredible. Jose Alvarado, shout out to GTA. His stock goes up. He played well for Puerto Rico. I don't really have much to say outside of that. 15 points per game, 48% from the field. He was the MVP in their qualifying tournament. Had 26 points against South Sudan. Had 18 points against Team USA. GTA, Evan Fournier's stock goes down. I don't think he's on an NBA team currently and does not look like he's an NBA player at all. So his stock went down. It looks like his career is pretty much over in the NBA, at least. Dyson Daniels didn't do much offensively, but looked very good defensively. His stock goes up a little bit. 11 points per game in pool play, 38% from 3. Looked really good defensively. Keep an eye on that. Yes, that one Fournier shot was crazy. But that's pretty much all he's got. Keep an eye on Dyson Daniels on the Atlanta Hawks this year. And we're closing it out here with Victor Wembanyama because this is probably going to be one of the more contentious ones. I thought his stock went up. I thought he played really well in this tournament. Now there are some things to clean up. 17 points per game. 48% from the field, 43% from deep in group play, 2 blocks per game, 2.5 steals per game, so 5.5 stocks per game. Now, he struggled mightily in the quarterfinals and in the semifinals. 9 points per game, 22% from the field. This is the correct number, 0.07% from 3. Or I guess 7% from 3. And it looked like it was like, okay, Wemby's kind of maybe has a further way to go than previously thought. And he was fucking awesome in the gold medal game, which is the biggest game of Wemby's life. 26 points per game, 11 of 19 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3. He was awesome. Now he's got to get stronger. The post-up game's not where you want it to be. His hands have to get better. Feels like he struggles catching the ball at times, especially catching it and then immediately finishing. But defensively, he looks great. He has to get stronger. I think has to develop more of an inside game as well. I think he does settle for jumpers a little too often. But I leave the tournament feeling good about my Victor Wembanyama GOAT stock. He's 20 years old, guys. He's 20. He's 20 years old, just put up 26 points per game in a gold medal game when they were huge underdogs. Kudos to him, man. Finito. Thank you all.